All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, Joe, my host, Nick and Dan, and gentlemen, another World Cup date is back, but we are sprinkling this one with a little bit of Chelsea because they did play a friendly, which, hey, third preseason of the season, so we got to get into that. But before we do all of the good stuff, I will say that we have Naz joining us from Qatar. It was good that we've finally been able to connect to you. You've been saying you've been working a ton. So Naz, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. Yeah, it's another exotic location I come to you guys from. It's been plenty. Yeah, not quite as fun as the US over the summer because I'm not seeing your lovely faces in person, but yeah, still enjoying it.
I can't wait to hear about your Moroccan heritage perspective on this World Cup. But before we get into that, obviously, everyone in the soccer community is well aware of the absolute tragedy that took place Friday night in local Qatar time that Grant Wahl passed away. I guess technically it was Saturday everything is so late there with the time adjustments and things. We found out about it Friday. So I guess, Nick, you've met him. You've probably followed him the longest out of all of us. I know you had a long piece about it. I guess kind of kick us off with a little bit of a roundup around Grant Wahl's impact to the community.
Yeah, Friday night was really tough for me and tough for a lot of people. If you were on Twitter, you saw just a string of heartfelt condolences, stories, tales of Grant Wahl. If you don't know who Grant Wahl is, this is a perfect opportunity to pause the pod and go do a bit of research because he was the preeminent soccer journalist in the United States. He was the first full-time soccer journalist in the United States, which is wild to say. And that wasn't that long ago that he was kind of made that. He died near the end of the Argentina-Netherlands game. From what we know, kind of collapsed in the press box, could not be revived on the way to the hospital. He's survived by his wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, who was at the forefront of a lot of the kind of COVID treatment stuff in the United States. A pretty powerhouse family. They got themselves there. And I think the big notes that I have on Grant are, one, that he is responsible for so much of what we consider modern soccer coverage in the United States. Like, I am truly not sure if the London is Blue podcast exists if Grant Wahl hadn't done about 25 years of work before we got to this point. Not because he told us what to do or anything like that. I've only met him a few times, but because he elevated the game and brought it to a whole slew of new people before it was cool. Like, he helped make soccer cool in the United States. He did so much in-depth reporting and brilliant analysis and storytelling around the game that made it accessible to so many who didn't really understand the sport or were just getting into it. And I've had the pleasure of meeting him a few times over the last 7 years. We're not friends. I don't text him. I think we shared a DM once, but the dude was incredibly kind. And every time that we would meet, he would be having a local craft beer. That was his thing wherever he went. Like, he wanted to make sure that he was kind of living the moment, but he was a proud Kansas Citian. Like, he was born in Mission, which is just like 15 minutes away from where I am right now. He had a crazy Midwestern work ethic and classic Midwestern humility. He is simply a pioneer of the sport in the States. Like I said, time at Sports Illustrated, where he was half college basketball, half soccer. Like, that's the amount of respect the sport got in the States and kind of the mid 90s and to where it is today, where he's able to go from doing bits on Fox to having his own Substack, his own podcast, and building his own media empire is a phenomenal 25 years of work. And he was one of the first journalists in the United States to cover women's soccer with the seriousness and sincerity that it deserves. Like, I mean, pioneer is oftentimes used as a compliment. So, like, this is an actual pioneer in the sport. But I think more than all that, and I know I'm rambling here, but I think he deserves a little bit of our time. Every perspective that you read on Twitter said the exact same thing. Everyone talked about how kind he was, how sincere he was, how committed to his values that he was, how much he helped people, especially young people who eventually were going to compete with him in, working for different competitors or working alongside him in the press box, and especially those who might not have been traditional media personalities. Like, he helped a lot of people get into soccer. The Cooligans did an amazing tribute to him on their YouTube, which I highly recommend viewing today, about how they were kind of outsiders and Grant Wahl brought them in to the mainstream. He built bridges for people, especially young people, especially people of color. And until his final days, he spoke truth to power. The day before he died, he wrote a really scathing review about the migrant worker crisis in Qatar. And look, the whole soccer community is so worse off for him passing away. It's unbelievably cruel to me that he will not get a cover of the 2026 World Cup in the States. It would have been his capstone. It would have been the culmination of a lot of work that he's done over the years to help bring soccer into the mainstream in the States. And I think more than anything, he shined a light where it wasn't before. And I mean that. So I'm going to pass the ball here, but I just wanted to give a little bit of context to the man, as I briefly knew him, and hope that we keep his flame burning.
I mean, I think obviously for our perspective, even like closer to home with the Blue Wire family, he did the Freddie Adu series, which was great. We got to kind of watch that come together. If you haven't heard it, again, it's just kind of him flexing his muscle. He's the only one that could land Freddie. Freddie didn't want to talk to anybody. Just shows that he's able to build genuine relationships with players. There's a lot of player tributes that are coming out, talking about him as well. So, like, again, you don't just have to take our word for it. A lot of people, players alike, which Naz can probably attest, don't always like the media. He was able to build bridges and get a good story because of his kind of genuine approach to it as well. So yeah, it's obviously devastating. If you were the least bit plugged into the world, you knew the name Grant Wahl in the U.S. soccer community. So it's a huge loss. I think Nick's point about the 2026 World Cup is a huge tragedy, and like, I hadn't even thought that far ahead yet. But thankfully, we do have a long 25 years of his content to reflect upon.
Yeah, I think Nick's tribute is excellent. The journalist community here, you're in a little FIFA bubble, so you see everyone around. I've seen Grant around. It's quite surreal to think he's no longer with us, since I was in the press box with him in several games, recently. So I wasn't in the press box in Argentina. I'm happy I wasn't, because people are really upset about what they saw, and that, such a legend who actually, he did reach out to almost everyone in the press box. You would have dealt with him if he was around, because he just had a magnetic personality, which I'm sure is why he gets the stories he gets and gets the interviews that he gets, and connects with the audience in the way that he connects with them. So I think that all that, on an individual basis, when you do get a brief amount of time with him like Nick's had, the people are really upset here. And it's a massive shame. And FIFA have paid tributes to him. I was at the England game yesterday, and there was a desk. He had a seat reserved for the match, and they kept it reserved. I'm sure they'll carry on with the tributes as well. So that's been nice, and all the huge names across the football world, all the big organisations are paying tribute to him.
And then you didn't just have the individuals who were in the soccer community. I think, for those who don't know, I mean, he brought LeBron into the zeitgeist in his time with Sports Illustrated, and LeBron had a very nice tribute. And you think about the fact that LeBron is one of the, if not, the best basketball player, depending upon which list you look at. And for him to go on a 2-minute talk about what he meant to him as a person and how he cared for him was another thing. And then the last thing I want to cap it off on, which I just thought is, if you know how knowledgeable about the game was, or how prescient he was, he had written a piece about 3 days before the Morocco-Portugal match, and he wrote, Morocco is no fluke, and despite Portugal's big 6-1 win over Switzerland, I think Morocco has a real shot of taking down Portugal to become the first African team ever to reach the World Cup semifinal. And Grant just got it. So rest in peace.
Yeah, I've been stopped in my tracks very few times with public figures dying. I named 4 of them on Twitter the other day, but I think this is like, for me, up there with Kobe, up there with Chadwick Boseman, up there with a little known football star from Nebraska when I was growing up, Brooke Beringer and Grant. I mean, they all had massive potential. They were all doing some of their best work as they passed away. And it's just an unbelievable tragedy. And we are certainly going to miss Grant Wahl. I posted a photo on our Instagram of him in a Chelsea shirt. Not 100% confirmed he was a Chelsea fan, but rumors are that he was. And, I think for that, just sign off with a thank you.
All right. Again, more stuff about Grant. That was our small piece of this a massive unfolding kind of tribute that is outpouring. So if it's up to you guys. If you want to learn more about Grant or get in on the appreciation, there are plenty of ways to do it. A lot still developing, so I'm sure there will be kind of memorials and things that'll go towards the causes that are important to him. But for now, we'll keep you updated as things come up. All right. Well, hard pivot back to the football. Unfortunately, after that heartache, Chelsea are back. So we're going to be talking about that match that took place in Abu Dhabi against Aston Villa, another Matt Law derby. We made sure not to have him on, which was a good thing for this one. We will be then talking about the quarterfinal results of the World Cup. The semifinals are set. No, we're not going to do that one again. All right. But before we do, Naz, we're coming to visit you. I don't know if you heard.
I've heard. I'm excited. Don't worry.
Group trip in Naz's flat.
Yeah.
He's hosting us, which is very generous.
Kinsella Manor. We're gonna just book all the rooms in the whole suite you got there, Naz. That's what we're doing.
I think it's a castle. That's what I was told.
Sounds like I need to upsize, man. I need to get something to handle the Americans coming.
We just need some tents in the back garden. No biggie. But in case you haven't marked your calendar yet, Naz, we're going to be there for Leeds and Dortmund. There is a Chelsea women's match going on that we're going to try to organize as well. But we are confirmed hotel and tickets for Leeds and Dortmund. Includes breakfast. What a perk, gentlemen, which most of the time you need after a night out hanging out with us. We're going to be doing live pods. There'll be stadium tours.
Certainly a night out with Naz. I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. Stadium tours, live pods, everything there. The biggest thing, like I said, though, is that concierge service from XL Tours. You want tickets for shows, you want travel, to local, regional things like that. They can help and organize, and they have a payment plan. So all you need is a $500 deposit now. It's the perfect thing to add your Christmas list. Registrations have officially begun to come in. So the race to the trip maximum has officially kicked off. We are excited. Nick, again, like 2 good matches, Dirty Leeds, US connection, for American fans. Like, what a great time to be there. There might be even another American at Leeds by the time we get there after the January transfer window. And then obviously a Champions League knockout round match at the Bridge. We've done group stage Champions League games. It is special.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Champions League night is a phenomenal night. Actually, I think our best night out was ahead of the Atletico Madrid match in 2018. I didn't want to leave the Cock Tavern to go watch that match. That's how good the pre-match was. So very excited about this. March 3rd through the 8th. Those are your dates for this trip. So it can be a short jaunt, or you can extend it however you want to do it. Make it fun for yourself. There's tons and tons of stuff. We will provide recommendations. We will do live pods. Naz will chug 100 beers if you want him to, whatever floats your boat. And look, we haven't done one of these since 2019. We've had so many people email us over the years, like, when are you guys going back? What's the deal? How are you guys going to make another group trip happen? Well, we just made it happen, and it's for a Champions League night in the knockouts. So get on over, go to the website. I know the website can be a little confusing to navigate. If you have any questions, email us, DM us, we'll get it sorted.
All right. Well, with that being said, by the way, links in our social posts about everything. I believe it is in our link tree as well. So if you go to any of our accounts, click the link in our bio. We got you.
Did we mention the promo?
Maybe. Dan, you're the promo man.
Come on, Dan.
Hit the horn.
Look, you guys were telling all the good stories, so I didn't want to jump in on it. But look, there's a $150 discount using the code London is Blue 150 before December 14th. Due to the technical issues Texel Tours was having and their new platform, they extended the deadline from the 9th to the 14th. So you got a few more days to save $150, which, we could all use $150 to put back towards our tabs, because that won't go to waste.
That's right. Get it on your Christmas list now. Ask family and friends, fund the trip for you. You will not be disappointed. We promise. We have a few plans we're still ironing out, but trust me, like, everyone has a good time in London. So the last thing I guess we'd plug, Dan, is the merch. The store is flying right now. Speaking of Christmas lists, get it on there. Let your family know you would love a hoodie or the coffee mug.
You're probably butting up against like last days to get stuff before Christmas time. So
I will give them credit. They are getting product out extremely quick right now.
Yeah, and it's a huge credit to us not doing it anymore. But I would just, if you're in the market for some last minute gifting items, just head on over to the store and we got you covered. And hopefully they will get there before the big day.
Yeah, I can't wait to get a shirt with Naz's face on it. We just can't get a deal struck. His licensing agent is sticking us
far
heavy.
Too much. Well, he has to buy this castle, and so that's the problem. See, we've run into it now.
Maybe we
don't
can
blame me. Blame my agent. It's my agent.
True. She's a tough negotiator, actually. So. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead. Take our ad break. When we get back, though, it's all about the Chelsea. That's right. The men are back to complement what the women have been doing. So thank you to sponsors. We'll be right back. All right, here we go. Chelsea men are back. Kind of. It's another friendly, our third preseason of the season, Naz, and you're not there. You missing out? You have FOMO on this one?
I know. It's rare that I miss anything, so it's like a bit crazy. When I see other people might be there, I'm like, my God, maybe I should have just taken the 5-hour cab over to Abu Dhabi, because it's quite close to the World Cup. But I was in pieces after that game yesterday, the England game, and I couldn't face it. There's bags under my eyes, man. I watched it, and it was good to see some of the players out there.
I mean, from our perspective, another early morning kickoff. We got the lineup with a little last minute tweak. So I guess Dan, if you would take a shot. It's been a while, but we'll walk into it. We've done lineup?
World Cup rosters. It's okay.
It's different.
It's not like different. So I mean, the only one that you want to consider is that Alfie Gilchrist came in and embraces Trev Chalobah. So look, there are a lot of names that if you don't listen to the Academy episodes that Brandon does with Phil, you may not have heard these names before. I mean, obviously we've all heard Bettinelli before, Between the Sticks, Brooking, Humphreys, not Chalobah, but Gilchrist, Cucurella, we've heard of him before. Mm-hmm. Webster, Jorginho as the captain, Hall, Hutchinson, Broja, which we will talk about in very short fashion, and then Aubameyang, and then subs included Beach, Cassidy, Elliott, Ranky, Burstow, and Motherseal. So definitely a Academy who's who for this little bit of a trip.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before the World Cup that, everyone who's left behind at Chelsea, bar Jorginho, maybe Cucurella, maybe Aubameyang, like there just aren't many first teamers that are with Chelsea right now because they're all playing for their national teams. And so, it's a really depleted roster. I mean, you compare our roster, Naz, to what Villa rolled out, which was almost a full strength lineup. And it was just kind of night and day. It kind of shows the difference between where the two teams are and kind of what the level of players was.
Yeah, I expected Villa to win just because of the lineups, and that's not a criticism of Chelsea or the youth team or anything like that. It's just, first team Premier League players going to be tough, whoever they play for. So, Villa was, I think, 10 first-team players, and then they had a few on the bench as well, whereas Chelsea had so many youth players and some in the same position and all that. So, yeah, I mean, before the match, you'd have probably thought maybe 2-0 Villa, it ended 1-0. So, it's not a big surprise, not a bad performance. It's actually a bit of a surprise. Chelsea had a lot of possession in the game and did dominate spells. So, I think that Villa maybe did deserve the win in the end. But, there were good spells from Chelsea, some great performances from the youth players. And, I mean, there's just more and more keep coming through, don't they? It's remarkable. And, it seems like another good group after a bit of a bad season at youth level last year, as you know, you guys will know.
The dev squad flirting with the relegation battle right up until the end, beating Spurs to stay up. But managerial changes have been made, and they are off and running in a much better spot. Again, I can't plug this enough. The Cobham Crew podcast with Phil, albeit not often, is full of gold, especially if you want to know what's coming up next. Some of the top line stats in this one: Chelsea had 11 shots, 3 on target. You would probably hope for a little bit more. Villa had 11 with 5 on target. Chelsea 51% possession, even on passes, even on pass accuracy, which is 90%. So it was crisp. It's good to see that it looks like the players are locked in. Their angles and their technical skills are staying sharp during this break. We had 9 fouls to their 4, 1 caution to their none. No one got sent off, 5 offsides to their 3, and we had 5 corners to their 6. The goal coming from McGinn in the 7th minute. And if you see it, it just broke down. They had a flood of runners, a really lucky kind of flick/dummy that made it to McGinn. And he, just tidy finish back across goal to the lower bottom corner. Bettinelli didn't have much of a chance. I don't think we need to read into that too much. Still injuries. I think now is the big conversation is the lack of players still. We want to know, where's N'Golo Kante? Where is Fofana? Where's Reece James?
Chilwell.
Yeah.
Now Trevo, right?
Kepa.
So it's like, how are we? Kepa as well, for sure. I think even Ruben picked up a foot injury or calf injury. How's it? Do you have any sense of how is it going out there? I mean, more and more players are slowly starting to return to individual training. I think we've seen Reece a little bit involved with the team, but really not much. I mean, come December 27th, what kind of a team are we going to see under Graham Potter?
Yeah, they've been falling like flies, haven't they? Before the international break, the players, the Chelsea players, so many injuries. The Newcastle defeat just before the international break. I counted nearly a dozen players out, I think, before that game or during that game, because some players went down as well, even in that match. So, I think that, they brought a squad out there. Chalobah, he was rested for the match. It was a bit of confusion around him potentially being in the lineup, then not. But it's not supposed to be an injury. It's probably an overload thing. They had a really tough session, actually, a last training session before the match. I think they were a bit tired, some of the players and things like that. So, we've had it with Callum Wilson here in England at the World Cup as well. Sometimes players just train a little bit too hard and you have to pull them. But I think that, this friendly was all about, the result didn't matter. So I know Chelsea are in bad form right now, but I don't think we should chuck this result into, a sort of feeling, that Chelsea should be upset about. Shouldn't say, oh, they've lost again type feelings. It's just a warm-up game. We spoke about the Villa being stronger, more senior players, but Reece is integrating back into the squad. He's been training, and so has Wesley Fofana as well, both out on the grass. They've both been doing really tough sessions. Not full contacts, but they do want those two back specifically for the Bournemouth game. So that'll be a huge boost. Reece James was the one that really kickstarted Chelsea's poor form. I know they didn't lose straight away after his injury at AC Milan, but the performances massively dipped. There was a game at Aston Villa where I think 3 players played wing back. So it showed you, even though they won that game, that things weren't right. So Reece needs to come back, and there's a feeling he will be back. Same with Fofana. Chilwell's a little bit behind, but there's a small chance he can make the game, maybe on the bench, or start to ease his way in early January. Kante is not back until mid-February. Kepa's injury is a bit of a concern to me because it's it's through the bottom of his foot, and it's more of a chronic thing. And people who I've spoken to who've had this injury say it's something you kind of manage throughout your career. So I think at the moment he's in the management phase and being held back. So that's a bit of a concern. It might mean Mendy continues as number one after the break. And then, finally, Loftus-Cheek, he got an injury against Newcastle, a proper injury. He's still out. They're trying to bring him back. But I think he needs a bit more time. It was a calf injury. I think that's kind of where we're at, unless I've forgotten anyone. There was a lot of players.
I think we're good there, Naz. By the way, one of my favorite UK isms is proper, but you've just ruined it by saying he has a proper injury. Like, I do not like that application.
Yeah, no.
Nick,
I'm not London enough. That's the problem.
Nick, a lot of these players are now getting a mini rest post World Cup, right? We obviously know Pulisic is out, hanging out, whatever. As players drop off, they get some time off. Heaven forbid no one pulls a Neuer, goes skiing and breaks his leg and is now out for the rest of the season. I need Aspie to take a siesta. I need Mount and the boys to chill. Like, there's still chance that more guys could come back injured, but I don't think we picked up any knocks in the World Cup. Knock on wood.
Knocks on wood. How about that?
I mean, you're gambling with Kovacic every single game that he's having to play. That's the only one that is of maximum concern now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Wrap them in bubble wrap. Make sure that they don't do anything stupid.
No Swiss Alps.
Golfing, fine. No issues. Going out for a night with the boys, all good. Don't black out and do something dumb. And look, the rest of it is what it is, right? Like the skiing thing, man. I can't believe, like, there are just certain things that you can't do, like as a pro athlete mid-season, like skiing.
Let me send you guys in the group chat a photo.
Come on.
His leg is in a cast up to his thigh. When I snapped my leg in half playing, I broke fib tib and I was into a cast that high. Like, he didn't do something minor.
My God.
This is a real injury.
Jesus. Anyway, so really not good. So go play golf, go to a yacht for a week or whatever, enjoy the sun. I know the winter sucks in England, so, do what you can to get the vitamin D in now, but no shark diving, no skiing, no jumping from helicopters into an ocean, none of that shit. We're already banged up enough. We don't need to compound that injury list. I will say though, like, for your Hutchinsons, we will talk about Broja here in a second. For your Halls, for the guys who are near about the first team, like, I think this is provided as a really great opportunity for some of these younger guys, just by making up the numbers, right? By being a part of it, by training with this group for a month or whatever, to maybe see themselves in a Chelsea shirt in the first team, which is just, to be frank, it's just not an opportunity that comes around that often for your Hutchinsons or your Halls. I mean, it's become more regular recently, but you really have to be like a top tier. And these guys are getting a chance to integrate in a more kind of, I guess in an easier way is what I should say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you get to test yourself against Premier League opposition. Like we said, Villa had a nearly all Premier League lineup, senior players with many caps for their country. So yeah, like seeing Omari Hutchinson, who should have played in those last few games for Chelsea, but results kept conspiring against him. The first time he was on the bench was against Brighton, and there's no chance he was coming on during that game. I won't remind anyone what happened there, but he wasn't going to come on anyway. That kind of, those incidents kept happening again and again. So yeah, Omari Hutchinson's really earned his shot. He's got so many goal involvements in the 23s. Big signing from Arsenal. Arsenal didn't want to let him go, but Chelsea poached him out of their academy. You'll see a lot more of that. I'm sure Phil will tell you in the years to come. Chelsea will lose some, they'll gain some, and they've gained a top class dribbler in Omari Hutchinson, who, you know, proved again he was one of the best players, if not the best player on the pitch. He was again a massive goal threat. You know, hit the post with a stunning dribble and shot. He had other moments in the game as well. He's a player we're all keeping an eye on. If he doesn't make his debut in 2023, then I'm going to be very surprised. And also these guys can have loans. Omari Hutchinson had big Reading interest around him in the last transfer window. So could they come back? Could they bring him in? Maybe, and that's also great, you know, and that's what we want. They'll you know, scouts will see they can play against men, which is what the final step for these guys to take. With Lewis Hall, he was excellent against Day. He did well, didn't he, before the break for the World Cup? So yeah, very good. Like, I think the best shot of the game, or one of the best shots, was his. Really good save from Olsen in the Villa goal. Other academy players like Webster did well. Chelsea needs to try and tie down his future. He's only got 6 months left on his deal, so I've written about that story. The clubs are sniffing around, and there's a bit more of that as well. So yeah, Humphreys played centre back, and he's pretty good. Playing out from the back and things like that. So. To only concede 1 goal with 2 academy centre backs is also very, very good. So
it's impressive, yeah.
It was overall. I saw a lot of positives for those guys, and Graham Potter might just take a shine to another one, but I think he's already taken a shine to Lewis Hall, and we'll see a lot more of him in Chelsea colours over the next year.
That's right. Obviously, we're missing Chukwuemeka still. Was he injured or?
Yeah, he was injured
sick right before the break.
Yeah, I think he had a hamstring problem as well. I'm
sure he would have loved taking on the old foes at Villa. Another little just detail from this: Unai Emery is in charge at Villa post Gerrarding. Again, as we're remembering a lot of things that happened a long time ago, which was the Premier League season. We had half the bench that they did. Just goes to show you, again, they've got everyone there. We do not. Lewis Hall was playing center mid today. He was playing in that 6-6 with Jorginho. You had Omari Hutchinson out on the right, Aubameyang on the left, with Charlie Webster in the middle. That is Charlie's best spot. That is Omari Hutchinson's best spot. He cut in, curled a shot in, smashed off the post. Like, Phil and I have talked about it. We're excited to do the December update because it's like, all right, it's stick or twist. Are these guys going into the first team or are they going on alone? Because they are too good for PL2. We need to continue to increase their advancement. Again, Lewis Hall, not putting a foot wrong. I don't know if you guys listen, but Phil kind of hinted that Lewis Hall might have moved lockers. He might be in the first team now pretty regularly, which is very, very exciting for him. As Nat said, Bashir Humphreys is having an amazing season. So we'll have to see. Cesare Casadei came in. He is a name that has been tearing it up lately, especially while all the other players are gone. He's a marauding, tall, great frame center mid. Unit is great way to describe it. And he's got goals in him and he's got tackles in him. He's gotten a few clumsy red cards along the way, but to see him in there again, getting minutes is going to be great for him. And to see him in training out there in Abu Dhabi is good. Again, just opportunity for these guys. It's great. I love it.
Chukwuemeka posted a photo of the other day of him when he first arrived at Chelsea in the shirt and what he looks like now. And the man's been putting in work in the weight room. He looks
shake regiment.
He looks like a whole different dude. Yeah,
he's an advertisement for Blue Fuel.
He was like rail thin in that initial signing photo, and now he's starting to see bulk up a little bit. And look, a lot of these guys who are younger are going to have to do that to compete in a Premier League level. Otherwise, just it's too easy to get bodied off the ball. It's too easy to get injured. You look at that Villa team today. Like, John McGinn is a full-grown man. That he's angry too all the time, but he's a full-grown man, and a bunch of these guys are. Ollie Watkins, full-grown man. Like, to go up against that sort of presence, I think will only benefit your Humphreys and your Brookings and your Lewis Halls. And, I think they're all going to have to put in work, obviously, but it's exciting to see them come through. And, Phil's been saying it for years, but the future classes that are coming through the academy at Chelsea can and probably will be better than even the current class, which is nuts. Your Mason Mounts and your Reece Jameses and your Trev Chalobahs and all those. So it's super exciting to be at Chelsea. Unfortunately, though, we have some bad news, Brandon, which is Armando Broja went down injured.
Yeah, just a fluky thing, right? He's chasing down a long ball right inside the 6. He ends up kind of pirouetting, doing a 360. I didn't see it the first 2 replays, and then the last one they actually showed, it was when he was like turning, and so his momentum was going backwards. His trailing leg caught in the ground, and you just saw his like leg snap back up, and you could hear the pain on the video. Naz, you're watching it live, like you can't produce that out. Like, you know that he's in a lot of pain. Now, to be fair, it could be initial shock, right? We've seen players go down and it sounds bad. Then, they finally get with the medical team, like, no, you're okay. And the confidence comes to come back. But this is another, here we go. Wait till the swelling goes down, get an MRI, see what it is. Initial reactions to the incident is bad. It's clearly a knee. The last thing we need is another long-term injury, especially with Broja, because he was our depth at striker. It goes back to is this now an unnecessary friendly because of this injury, which sucks. It sucks to have this, happen.
No, I don't think it's an unnecessary friendly. I mean, you'd never play football if you're scared of people getting injured, but and you do need to get back ready for the Bournemouth game. It's just also what happens in football. Unfortunately, people get injured, but it was absolutely sickening. It kind of ruined watching the game for me. It did put it off, and I think that the way that the players were. I saw Cucurella was really angry at the referee at halftime, but I think it was just misplaced emotions towards seeing your friend getting badly injured. So I kind of felt a bit like that. I felt a bit like Cucurella. I didn't know what to do with my emotions. It's a guy who I've interviewed several times. I was the first journalist to interview him. I hope he's okay. Don't know how bad it could be. It could be anything from a really, really bad injury to quite a bad injury, but it certainly seems like an injury that would keep him out just from the pain. The worst thing was, it's not in a Premier League stadium as well. So there's no sugarcoating it on the imagery that, that this was a guy in a lot of pain and distress because, you can't hear the crowd. You just heard him screaming like for several minutes. And I think all the Chelsea fans who watched it, and there'll be thousands who watched it and who are listening to my voice, who've seen the images and the sounds, they'll understand how sickening it was to see it. So, it was really horrible to see. It was no one's fault. Even the challenge, it's like he did the right thing. He's pressing a defender, but sometimes your studs get caught in the grass. Everyone gets injured sometimes, but you just hope that he's escaped a really bad one. It's a young player, a player who's pushing for appearances in the first team. Graham Potter likes him. And you're wondering what's the outcome of this going to be? If he is injured for a year, what does that mean for his career? All these kind of things. He's seen it with Loftus-Cheek in a friendly. It's not like that because Chelsea needed to play as friendly. That one they probably didn't need to play. But we've seen it that even in friendlies you can hurt yourself. But you just have to play to the maximum, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to prove himself. And I don't know what to say about it, really. I don't have any answers about how bad the injury is. I've had knee issues myself. So, even still, I can't tell what it is. So it'll be one of those that will come out in the next few days. It'll take a scan. There'll probably be initial reports tomorrow. And then, over the next few days, we'll probably get more definitive. Chelsea also like to put out official statements now about injuries so everyone knows where their players stand. So we'll probably get that as well. So, I guess just really hoping that Armando's not in as much pain now. Hoping them, he will get good medical support out there. Abu Dhabi, I've been, here in Qatar, the medical support's very good. So I'm assuming Abu Dhabi is very similar. So hopefully he's getting the best treatment. Hopefully he's feeling okay, and hopefully there's minimum damage to his knee and he can get playing again soon.
Friendly reminder, Dan. He is one of 2 traditional number 9s in the team. The other one being obviously Aubameyang. Havertz has filled in, but as we just talked about, a lack of depth, that might be something that if he is out for a long time, might have to be addressed. The match report from the club, though, not even mentioning the injury to Broja, so they are not ready to divulge anything.
I'm sure they need more information about the extent. They want to do their own fact finding. They want to be able to put out what the timeline is and have a little control of the narrative. But I think to the other point, the injuries happen. I mean, this is nowhere near the 2019 match in Boston. I mean, this is getting ready back to play Premier League competition, and what better way to do that than playing another Premier League side? So it's unfortunate. It's heartbreaking because I think you saw that there might be something for Broja this season, and now we're gonna have to wait until most likely next season to see what it is that he can contribute.
I mean, Naz, do you think that this? Obviously, we don't know what has happened yet, right? But do you think that this potentially puts Chelsea back into the market for another striker in January?
Yeah, well, the Chelsea definitely weren't in for a striker in January. At the moment, they got Nkunku as well. Don't forget that they're in pretty advanced negotiations, if not completed the deal. It's like really far down the line. They're denying that it's done on the Leipzig end, but everything seems to suggest it's done. So can they move that forward? Probably not. Do you get a temporary loan option? That might be the best option. With kind of like Pulisic and Ziyech still sort of irritated about a lack of game time. So there's some options there. I think, there's an option on the market that I wrote about recently, which was João Felix, who's done quite well over here in Qatar. I think the clubs will be looking at him. Potential loan with option, that would be the kind of move that you could see happening. But yeah, permanence I see complicated with, there's other talents there. You've still got Broja on a longer term contract as well, as long as it's not a really, really bad injury. You maybe don't need to enter the market, but it does leave Chelsea short. It's frustrating. So loans are probably the best solution for this problem. But there's a lot of Chelsea is set to be busy in the transfer market. So I'm not going to have a quiet time after this World Cup. I've got a lot of reporting to do, and this injury probably just adds maybe another dimension to it for sure. I could see it happening, but I think Chelsea don't even know what they're doing yet because they've got to get those scans done, and then they make a call.
All right, should we pivot?
Hard pivot.
Back to the international footy. I hate to break it to you. England lose out to France. France looking to repeat in World Cup. England 1, France 2 was the final. Definitely a lot of ways to splice this one. But the XG was 1.2 to 2.4, but obviously that was massively bridged by the penalties. I think it was like 0.75 without the penalties, which still is relatively close when it comes to it. France only had 8 shots, but 5 on target, so highly clinical there. England, given it everything, was 16 shots, 8 on target, and 57% possession. So they definitely had to control the game as much as they could. From a lineup standpoint, looking at this one and kind of who took the team, we haven't seen Mason in a while as we kind of put on our blue tinted glasses. Raheem, though, returned. It was just a short trip home after his home was burglarized. He very quickly came back. So again, if we've talked about the mentality of Raheem and Aubameyang had his, I think, house broken into, and even like his family were there, is like highly traumatic, and the ability of these players to kind of handle these things is quite amazing. But Pickford in goal again, Walker, Stones, Maguire, Shaw in the back, Henderson, Rice, Bellingham in the middle, Saka, Kane, Foden up top was how they went with it. Lloris, Koundé, Varane, Upamecano, Theo Hernandez in the back, Rabiot, Tchouaméni, the holding sixes, Dembele, Griezmann, Mbappe's attacking three was Giroud up top. I don't want to go to Naz right away. So Nick, I'm assuming you watched this one. It was like the big game of the quarterfinal stage. Essentially 2 favorites to win it all going head to head. It was a tight affair. It was cagey. There was a lot of excitement to this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I thought that England played better on the day. I predicted that they would win ahead of this game. I know that everyone's been writing France as tournament favorites. I think that England played a lot better in spells and certainly played better overall. They probably created enough to at least take that into extra time, if not win it. And I think we're just unfortunate on the day. I don't think anyone on that team can feel too bad about that. I know it'll hurt for a long time, but I think to limit Mbappe, to control the midfield, to have as many shots on target as they did, and to play without fear against that France team is no small feat. I mean, France team is nuts, but they're also kind of lazy. And like the way that they play is very passive. They wait for their moment. They're amazing at counterattacking. Obviously, some of the speed that they have is insane, and some of the quality they have. The Giroud finish was great, and the Chouameni finish was fantastic. But overall, I think England deserved it on the day, and I think Deschamps, even after the match, Dan admitted that his team was a bit fortunate to go through, and that's kind of where we are here. It was a very, very, very close game.
I mean, just to be fair, though, if you need 2 penalties to tie the game and to potentially send it to overtime, I don't know how much credit I would give in the England's ability to capture. I mean, like, you just look at like the XG was essentially kind of level, except for the penalties that kind of spiked it in both fashions for England. And so yes, they had plenty of shots. You had Harry Kane versus Lloris on who was going to outspurs each other the most. It was very fun for the neutral in that regard. But this to me felt like France was more clinical. They continue to get the job done. They're showing their pedigree as a hopeful repeat champion. And Chouameni had a wonder goal, and like that doesn't go in all the time. So I don't know. I thought France were better value for it, and I guess Naz, maybe the question is like how is the reception within the English side after the results of the match?
Yeah, I think I'd agree more with Nick's take on the game, but not to disrespect France though. I think there is definitely some value in surviving pressure. Some of the dark arts, maybe like tactical fouling. Griezmann got booked for one, but there was a lot, and I think there was a bit of frustration on the England side, particularly Saka, who was excellent in the game. He was kicked a lot, and he seemed to be the main threat. So. I think that the English media and I guess the fans as well, it's quite a strange feeling because you kind of have pride, but you kind of, devastated as well at the same time that, it's a great opportunity. And I genuinely believe from this match that the World Cup winner would emerge. So I think France will win the World Cup. I think Harry Maguire said the same thing, to me yesterday as well, that's what he believed. He thinks that France will win the World Cup now, and so do I. And I think England just needed to try and overcome, a near rival. And I think, in terms of performance, it was excellent. But at the end of the day, football's about what you do in both boxes. England didn't get set enough quickly. After a corner, Griezmann crosses in, Giroud scores, and then you go and waste a penalty, which is a great opportunity. Harry Kane, who's got a great record from the spot, misses in the worst possible time. I'd rather he missed a Spurs one than an England one, of course I would. Football's sometimes not as complicated as you make out, and that's kind of the difference here. But I think there's a lot of respect on the French side towards the English, and of course back at them as well. For that performance. So yeah, it's a real shame. It should have at least gone to extra time for me. I think now we're in a strange position as a country where the whole country wants the manager to stay after probably most fans were getting a bit anti-Southgate. So, I mean, I've always been sort of a supporter of his, after seeing his work a bit closer than maybe a lot of fans. But I think that now actually it's probably one of the first times in my lifetime where I've seen actually people galvanized behind a manager after a bad result. It's quite remarkable. There's a lot of sympathy for him. The FA want him to stay, the players want him to stay, but it's about now, does he want to stay? Yeah, he has got longer on his contract, but does he actually have the stomach for it anymore after being criticised, after, being booed, after, people, certain political opinions attacking him and all this kind of stuff, people publishing his address on the internet and things like that. So this is a manager who's doing a really good job in a really high pressure situation. I mean, the England job maybe is even more, it's certainly probably as pressured as a Big Six job, maybe more so. So I think he's done an outstanding job. All the players love him. The fact that, when I was listening to Brandon read out the stats, twice as many shots, but the possession stat is the really shocking one, because England teams, the character of English football is so often kick and rush. It's so often physicality. But to actually have players who will put their foot on the ball, these players being encouraged to play against the top nation, it's not something I don't think I've ever seen in my life. And it's not because England hasn't had the players, but it's just because we maybe haven't had the culture to do it. But now, and hey, I've got to throw Chelsea in here as well, but all the big academies in England, they're producing these technical players. Mason Mount is the kind of player we want. Bellingham is the kind of player we want.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming from big academies, small academies. English football has changed. So, and that's not happened by chance. That's deliberate. That's what English football wants to be now. I think that there's pride, but it just feels like a wasted opportunity. And I know we're going to speak a bit about Morocco later, but it's a favourable semi-final, to be honest, after they've killed themselves to get through. So, and I'm not that impressed with the other two semi-finalists either. I was there at Brazil watching them get knocked out, and Brazil was the main team I was scared of, apart from, France themselves. So to see them go out, this was an opportunity of a lifetime. And now the emotional fan and hysterical side of me feels like I may never see England win a World Cup, because this just felt like such a big chance and it wasn't taken.
I mean, I'll be honest, like your points about Southgate and the way that they played, I felt that way watching them. Like, again, we all know Senegal was not full strength, but the football that you guys played in that match was dynamic. And I wouldn't characterize England as being dynamic internationally for some time. Like I genuinely thought they played France at the very least even, if not played better than them yesterday. And given all the talent that France has on the field, all the international stars that they have, that's no small feat, man. And I think you'd be dumb if you're the FA to dump Southgate right now after the progress that's been shown. Again, progress not showing up in the form of where you placed in this tournament, but progress being that you can play anyone off the park. Like it's, I don't know. I think it was maybe just the wrong matchup on the wrong day, but you could easily see a scenario where England go through yesterday. You could easily see a scenario where England reach the final and maybe win it if a couple of bounces go your way. And I mean, if Southgate doesn't want to stay there, there's a U.S. job that's coming open pretty soon that I'd be really encouraged to have. So I don't know.
Yeah, international football is a different beast. You do it for that long. Like sometimes you just want to change, get out of the rhythm, but it's too early to talk about that. Again, very even. I just want to end real quick by saying huge plaudits to Olivier Giroud. Again, this is a guy who was not even going to be involved in this team at one point. He was definitely at a maximum going to be back up to Benzema. 2 injuries, one to Benzema, and then Nkunku really opened the way for Giroud to kind of make this tournament his. He's now the all-time leading goal scorer for the men's team in France, and he is even chasing down his compatriot to be the Golden Boot winner in this tournament as well. So again, for him to be in his upper 30s, challenging for everything, the heart and soul of this team, there is that kind of like soft spot, I think, for us Chelsea fans watching him go out there and do the business. So good on you, Ollie. But Naz, our sympathies and condolences definitely go with you. By the way, you've got Declan Rice and Connor Gallagher as well from the Chelsea Academy in that squad. So anyways, we're going to take our final break, but when we get back, it is all about the other 3 matches leading into the semifinals. We'll be right back. All right. So as you mentioned, Naz, the other side of this one is Morocco continuing this magical run, beating Portugal. What?
It's amazing. It's like that.
Nick was laughing, so I was confused if I said something dumb, but I kind of did.
They played Portugal off the field yesterday. I genuinely love that match with all of my soul. Yeah, it was great.
Portugal were not great after smashing Switzerland, which was definitely a false flag because they were not good as well. They continue to bench Ronaldo, and it didn't really have anything going. Morocco gets the 1 goal, defends like hell, plays like a team. Again, let me pull up Ishan's text real quick, because if you just kind of look at the timeline of this group, right? They just got their manager in August.
Former player for
yes,
them, right?
former player.
August 31st. August 31st, by the way.
So September, basically.
So, Naz, maybe you can walk us through this kind of wild timeline. They had a long-term manager falling out with Ziyech, and some players vowed never play again for this manager. He gets removed. Throw in a former player that just, you kind of put him in to say, hey, people know you. Can you just kind of keep it comfortable during the World Cup? Like, we don't need drama. We just want to go there and be a team. He's actually turned this team into a unit with a mentality, a never say die attitude. And they've just done enough to get it through. I've written them off at every single stage that I've had a chance to. And here they are, the first African team to ever reach a semifinal of a World Cup.
Yeah, it is incredible when you say it like that. The end result, to be the first African team, it's been a barrier that all African nations have been desperate to knock down, and this team has done it. But just to segue quickly, the Chelsea angle in this is Hakim Ziyech. So this is a guy who most Chelsea fans would be like, I don't want him to go to the World Cup. I'd rather he's rested so he can play against Bournemouth, or at least come off the bench really fresh. But actually, it's been good for Chelsea because this guy is rediscovering his form. People rate him. If you have to sell him, there'll be a market because he's absolutely, fighting, blood and thunder for the team. So yeah, he came back in under the new manager, and that was probably part of the reason why the old manager was sacked. He fell out with also Mazraoui, who plays for Bayern Munich. So not only have you got not a Chelsea player not on your team, you've not got a Bayern Munich player on your team. That's not good at international level. But they brought those two guys back, and hey, there's other talents in that team. Bono, the goalie from Sevilla, West Ham central defender, Besiktas and former Wolves defender Roman Saiz. Hakimi, maybe the best right back in the world, but Reece James fans will say no. But certainly, if it's not Reece James, it's Hakimi, who is the best right back in the world. And then you've got, Unahi in midfield, who Luis Enrique, the Spain manager, never heard of, never bothered scouting him, but he's absolutely outstanding in the round of 16 game, and he's been outstanding all the way through. Luis Enrique only had to watch 3 games to know who this player was, but he didn't bother because he was that confident to beat Morocco. Amrabat as well. Tottenham tried to sign him. Now they probably have regrets. He's been absolutely maybe the star man of the whole show, the defensive midfielder. Liverpool now seems to be in for him if, they can't get Jude Bellingham. It looks like he might be the one they go for. And then you've got, a front three of El Naziri and another striker in Spain who is really strong. And with Ziyech and Soufiane Boufal, who failed at Southampton, but is absolutely outstanding in this tournament, playing at a level way beyond most English pundits would ever say he would. So, it's a great 11. We're just a bit worried they're a bit tired now, but yeah, the manager, shout out for him. I think what has been magical about this story, and I think that when you're here in Qatar, you really feel it, is that everyone is so passionate about Morocco now. They're by far the most popular team on the ground. Like, I went to get a sandwich this afternoon and somebody was driving around with his whole car painted in the Moroccan flag. He literally just done this paint job just for this tournament. Like, you go to the main squares, it's Moroccan flags, the fans going nuts. I mean, even before the tournament started, they were probably the most popular team, but they really are now. They got 99% of the stadium against Portugal. So everyone's inspired by this team. They're flying the flag for Africa. They're flying the flag for the Arab world. And the head coach, Walid Regraoui, he's kind of a guy no one in Europe had ever heard of. I hadn't really heard of him, to be honest, before the tournament, but I've done extensive research now, and I've realized he's won the African Champions League, which is a big achievement with a Moroccan club, which isn't the richest league in the sort of region. He's won the Champions League with them just before taking the job. And he also won the league, by the way. So league and Champions League double. Comes into this tournament, not too well known in the football world, and he's going there knocking out managers who won the European Champions League. So it does show you, and you can see why people are so inspired by it. It shows you that African football has value. It shows you football beyond the usual South American, European shores that we focus on has value. And I think that, in a country, Qatar, that's been criticised a lot, rightly so, for many different reasons, it shows kind of the good side of Arab culture and all this kind of thing, Muslim culture as well. So I think that's why it's so inspirational. It's become almost more than a football story. But you know what's been really good about it, because I've spoken to some of the players, and I'm going to be covering them now. England are out a bit more, but I've been speaking to some of the players, and they're solely focused on achieving something unbelievable here. Like, I was talking to them after they knocked out Spain, and they're like, yeah, we've beaten Spain, but we literally need to beat Portugal now. Like, you know, if we get knocked out, we're not going to be satisfied. It's like, you know, they've got the mentality of a big nation, and they are a big football nation. I'm half Moroccan. I went there on my last holiday, actually, before this World Cup in September, and yeah, there was a friendly on. I usually go on holiday when the internationals are on, so I don't miss Chelsea stuff. And I went there during the internationals, and Morocco were playing, and the whole town was taken over, and it was like you could tell Morocco were playing. Everyone was in the shirts, men, women, children. It's massive. So this is just a football nation getting what it deserves. So I think US fans will probably hope that the next World Cup might be their chance, but it seems like this World Cup is Morocco, kind of like a big nation in waiting, ready to show the world and surprise the world. And I think that they've opened a lot of people's eyes that, yeah, great footballers can come from beyond Europe and South America.
A couple just funny things that happened in this match. Morocco had 27% possession, so kudos to you. Also, Walid Chedira getting sent off right at the end with the second caution. Insert refereeing discussion later time. We don't have time for that. But then also the Moroccan defender Jawad El Yamik kissing Pepe's bald head after he missed the equalizer right at the end.
I mean, Dan, I don't know how you could be anything but impressed and thrilled for this team. I mean, they are the Cinderella story of the entire World Cup. They're playing this dogged, determined style. It kind of reminds me of Chelsea, when Chelsea were playing up against, you know, the Barcelonas of the world, and were ultra defensive and just gutting it out and gutting it out and gutting it out. It's kind of the way that they remind me, and they take the one or two chances they have every match. And it just seems like, I don't know. I've watched this team, a bunch of, as Naz went around the lineup, a bunch of like Premier League folks who have dissipated from our view over the years, like Saiss, who was bad for Wolves for a really long time. And he's been incredible in this tournament. I mean, just been absolutely incredible. He's on one leg, it looks like, with his hamstring, and just gutting it out. Like, I don't know, man, like rooting for Morocco the entire way.
It's definitely making for a very tasty semifinal between France and Morocco. That's for sure, because they now have a little bit of a history in this tournament of beating the giant. And so they get to take up probably the biggest giant left in the tournament. And you're going to like their odds if they can somehow beat France and make it to the final. I don't know. Anything's possible. Insert KG clip.
I just wanted to jump in quickly and say, if they've got the players fit, I think Morocco are good enough to win the tournament. And also, the XG was better than Portugal's. They might not have possession, but they are creating chances. So, yeah, they're unreal on the break. And, yeah, so, you know, the football purists might not like them, but they are creating chances better than Spain, better than Portugal, and deserve to be where they are, you know?
So on the other side, big upset, potentially Croatia beating Brazil. Really kind of cagey, nothing really going on in the entire 90 minutes. Brazil score a very Brazil-esque goal in the first extra time. Then in the 117th minute, not really sure what they're doing, clearly not playing to seal it out. Croatia get their one chance and bury it. And now we go to pens. And it was just, I mean, the penalties, again, as you just kind of like watch this one, Croatia seemed to be absolutely up for it. They love a good penalty shootout. Rodrigo missing the first one for Brazil set them back right away. And then, as we all know, Croatia buried all four. Marquinhos hit the inside of the post and came out to lose it all. It was just a bad day out for them. They were my favorites by a mile.
I mean, they played some scintillating football too. I mean, they were, you know, not in this match, but they previously had just torn up South Korea and had looked dominant throughout. I mean, limiting chances as well. I mean, their defense was nuts in the group stage. But I was listening to Men in Blazers doing their live show the other day, and they brought up a really good point that Croatia just doesn't know how to lose. Like it's insane. Like you look at their knockout record and the amount of times that they've gone to penalties, and they just don't know how to lose. I don't know if they know how to win, but they don't know how to lose, and it's absolutely insane to me, Naz, having watched this game. Most people would have written it off as an easy Brazil-Argentina semifinal. I think I would have, frankly, but this Croatia team is something.
Yeah, it's well said that, Nick. They don't know how to lose, but they don't know how to win. That's a great way to put it. I was at this game, so it was a nightmare because I had to rewrite my article like 3 times because it goes to penalties and there's a last-minute goal. That's what happens. But I was enthralled in it, and it was quite interesting. I think Brazil got very nervous. I agree with what Brandon was saying. I think if you looked at all the squads, if you go down there to the Wikipedia page and look at the squads, they had the best, on paper. I think maybe England was second best. So we've got 2 of the best out now. But I think that, looking at their squad, I thought they would dominate this game. I've seen Croatia a lot in the tournament as well. And I thought these guys have no chance, but they just don't know how to lose. And yeah, they were dominated for a large parts of the game, but they did have good outlets. And I was looking at Brazil, watching them for 120 minutes. It was my first time watching Brazil, but I'd seen Croatia a lot. And I was like, these guys are really nervous. You can just tell, Vinicius Jr. wasn't doing stuff. I think the manager made some bad calls, keeping Neymar on. I know he scored the goal, but he played terrible and the goal wasn't beautiful. And I was really hoping, I was in the middle of writing a piece saying this is Neymar's moment. He's keeping his dreams alive of being the best player in the world, even though I don't think he will ever be that. But I thought, this was his moment because he's supposed to be the one who takes over from Pele. Also, they're playing for Pele because Pele is sick right now. Mm-hmm. So imagine the emotion of that. That's what's making them nervous. They had the camera panned to legends in the stadium. They had Kaká, Romario, Ronaldo, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, all watching from that generation. Brazil haven't won the World Cup since 2002. Okay, a lot more recent than England, but for them, that's a disaster. And they put more pressure on their team than even England fans do. So I feel like that was all inside the team, that pent up frustrations and the fear of failing was right in the team. So yeah, they were really not as good as you'd expect them to be. They did try to attack, but couldn't break them down. And then, to be fair, they were unlucky for the goal. And Croatia just have some, the fighting spirit's unbelievable. I spoke to several Croatian players after the game, and one of them was saying to me that they're happy to play for penalties because they believe they can beat anyone on penalties. They think they're the best team in the world on penalties. So, and the fact they can keep going for 120 minutes no matter what is incredible. And the only last thing I would say is Luka Modric's ability to take a sting out of a game is something absolutely spectacular. Just a skill to win a free kick, take the ball in a bad area, and just make sure he doesn't lose it and give the ball to somebody else. It's like a superpower. It's staggering.
I would say that Neymar has now tied Pele on Brazilian goals with 77. So he's obviously personally be really upset. He doesn't have a chance to break it. You assume he has another World Cup in him. But as we talked about, nothing is guaranteed in life at all. The last one then, this was actually my favorite game of the quarterfinals.
Insanity.
Look, villains, heroes, everything.
Mostly villains.
Oh my gosh. 2-2 draw in full time, Netherlands and Argentina. Argentina winning 4-3 on penalties. This had all of the spice and the fire in this one. The goals, an amazing pass, no look pass by Messi to find Molina in the 35th minute, cut them open. Then we had to wait until the penalty in the 73rd minute, Messi righting some wrongs from the penalty spot. And then good old Van Gaal thrown on the big men, Weghorst, who, by the way, got cautioned while on the bench in the first half, I believe, comes on a couple of
special breed. That's a special breed of player that can get cautioned while they're sitting on the bench.
So he knows he can't celebrate and take his shirt off because he'd be gone. So 83rd minute, cross in, boom, big header. Got it. Makes sense. Then in the 90 plus 11 minute, the sneakiest, biggest balls of steel free kick ever happens. And he just passes in from close range. The sneakiness to play the player a short pass directly in where he opens up and finishes, ties it in the 101st minute of regulation time. Just wild. And then for shits and giggles, when it's all said and done, Dumfries got sent off for shit talking. So Pens were in there as well. I don't know. Where do you want to take this one, Dan? My favorite moment, by the way, was when it was Paredes, whoever smashed the ball into the bench of Netherlands. Thankfully didn't hit anybody, but woo!
Should have never been on the pitch. That's a red card, man.
Weird.
A record
14 yellows. Sorry.
Post-game interview was probably the best part of it after the fact. Like, he found a way to dunk on Van Gaal, the referees, the other players, and like to do so just with a level of comfort. I don't know if you were in that mix zone, Naz, but that was certainly the quite a post-game interview.
Yeah, it would have been spicy, I think. But no, I'd only just got back from the Brazil game. So yeah, that was my game of the day. But I thought I'd seen the game of the day already. And then this one goes and blows it out of the water. But yeah, the tension between the two teams, on the penalties, my God, like the Argentina players were celebrating in front of the Netherlands ones. The gamesmanship from Emi Martinez just seems like an absolute shithouser, really. He's like, even in the Premier League, he infuriates you. If you ever get a penalty against him, you're going to be angry. Like, he just does whatever he can to win. Fair play to him, but he's not pleasant to watch at times. But yeah, it was tense. I think that was the great part of the game. It's what the World Cup's great for, just the tension and all the things riding it. I've seen Argentina play in an earlier round, and they play on so much emotion, so much aggression. It's kind of like beautiful to watch and also horrible at the same time. They're doing it for Messi as well, which is quite interesting that they all love him so much. Like, it's like playing with your idol. Like, a lot of kids
work so hard off the ball so he doesn't have to.
Yeah, it literally, yeah. And I think that it's working for them, but I don't think they're a great team. It's like, my confidence in England and my confidence of France, going all the way is based partly on watching Argentina struggle through. They've played some horrible games in this tournament. Messi's had some beautiful moments. So you get the good, the bad, and the ugly with them. But they do work really hard. They do stupid things as well, because the way they gave the free kick away for the 101-minute equaliser was absolutely idiotic. And sometimes they're capable of stupid things too. So you're just wondering if the aggression is going to be, they're playing right to the line. Are they going to go over the line at some point? Croatia are a very intelligent team as well. So can they manipulate them? Can they push them over the line and get someone sent off or something like that? It's going to be fascinating, that semi-final.
Croatia is the perfect foil for them, because Croatia doesn't take shit from anybody. And Argentina are now the villains of this tournament based on that Netherlands game. I mean, even the post-match, Lionel Messi telling people to fuck off, and Lisandro Martinez getting stuck in the mix zone, and like it was classless, honestly. Like, whatever, do whatever you want if you win, but like they had a moment there where they could have been gracious in victory, and they absolutely blew past that moment and decided to become clowns and villains. And anybody but Argentina to win this tournament now. I absolutely loathe these guys. Paredes should not be eligible for this upcoming match. He should have been sent off, because he's got a yellow for the foul and then blasted the ball into the bench right after that. I mean, everyone on the coverage was like, yeah, that you can give 2 yellows for that. I mean, they're 2 different incidents and both were ridiculous. So that team can fuck right off for my taste.
Look,
thanks.
I am the anti-hero here, right? And what I would say is that Netherlands were not clean. Like, the shit house and talking they did to Lautaro Martinez. And we didn't get to see a lot of it. While the players up at half, it was continuing, right? Like, the Netherlands players were walking with Martinez to the spot. They're in no sense covered in glory. So I can at least understand that Argentinians are known as being playing on emotions, and that said, and then you ratchet it up. But I mean, like, the mean mug with Edgar Davids and just like from start to finish, Argentina will win or lose because of their emotion, not because of their great play. 100%. I give credit to the referee finally for this. Could have just completely boiled over, and it could have been 3 red cards apiece, and it just could have like spilled into, the referee ruined the game. he allowed everyone to be on the pitch up to a certain line. No one crossed it. I understand the Paredes thing, but I think it didn't hit anybody. Hey, look, it didn't hit anybody.
Come on.
Sure, it incited it, but like that's a tough pill to swallow to send a guy off for 2 instant yellow cards. It completely changes the game.
Okay, it doesn't matter though. Like, no, I mean, the rules are the rules.
You have to manage the games, and like you don't want to essentially foil a thing like that.
I completely disagree. I just you look at that entire
player's individual decision foils it, not necessarily the official who's managing the game.
I mean, but that's obviously not true. We know they're briefed and they're told to manage things. I mean, look, Messi had a handball that wasn't given a caution. Like that was blatant and obvious. Like clearly he wanted Messi to stay on the field. I accept that. But like at least everyone got to stay on and go. It was wild. It was exciting. I at least enjoyed it because of all of the shithousery and just like the never say die attitude of Netherlands. I think they botched extra time. They completely went away from what was working. Yeah. They had an advantage.
They took their foot off the gas, didn't they?
Yeah, threw it away. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, the quarterfinals were super spicy. A little bit interesting. The semifinals, Argentina and Croatia both played extra time, went to penalties. They're playing each other. And then France and Morocco both had defend till you die games in 90 minutes. So this is where you're going to have some interesting matchups. Yellow cards have reset is my understanding. Is that right, Naz? So yeah. Argentina go in with a clean slate after that one.
Yeah, good timing. It's probably why they were shithousing. They're probably tactical shithouses.
Yeah. Croatia, Morocco final, just like we all predicted. Come on.
It's possible, don't get me wrong.
I know it is. I hope it happens.
It would be wild. So those games are on Tuesday, the 13th of December. They're at the same time. So you might need to go snag someone's monitor off their desk so you can have 3 monitors, one for work, one for each game, so you can balance appropriately. Naz, which game are you going to be at?
No, I think they're back to back. They're the same time, but different days.
Yeah,
so
different days. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. One Tuesday, one Wednesday. I apologize.
I'll be at both.
Brandon just wants 3 monitors all the time for some reason.
I just assume they'd be at the same time, so there's no advantage. I mean, why give one team an extra day of rest or one less day of rest in preparation? But anyways,
football's not fair.
Football's not fair.
Oh, thank you for that. No, I'm just saying maybe they could run it a little bit better, but you got to maximize TV revenues. Anyway, sponsors are happy. Naz, we're out. This has been a long one, my man. It was so good to see you. Thank you for bringing the boots on the ground perspective from Qatar. Hope you're surviving. Hope you're enjoying it. This is your 2nd World Cup. You're becoming a vet covering these things.
I am, yeah. This time with more, grills, a lot of heavy meat dishes that you get in this part of the world. So I might be a bit heavier than I was before, but it's all good. It's all good.
You can afford to put on a little weight, my guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm lean. I'm lean from before.
All right. Well, again, just want to cap it off with Grant Wahl. Huge tributes, rightfully so, pouring out for him. Go check it out if you haven't seen his work. You will very quickly become a fan. Soccer world absolutely devastated by this. So we will continue to be back after the semifinals. So again, take an opportunity to tell the loved ones you love them, and we'll be back after the semifinals. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.